and Curtis on here, and so my brain went first name, last name, instead of last name, first name.
It's okay. I got two first names.
Okay, so how do I get to the presentation?
You could go to the top and share your screen. Where it
Oh,
says file, open and share, or you can just share your screen at the top.
okay. Let me make sure that I've got it. Sorry, everybody. I don't use WebEx that often. Nope, that's not what I want. All right. Should have practiced this before.
Yeah, go ahead, Forrest. I haven't hit record yet.
There we go. Got it.
Awesome.
All right. Is everyone's all right? Are you seeing the slideshow?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to talk today about using social media for government contractors, but I want to remind you all that you have multiple client segments. The government is only one of your client segments. Many of you are also marketing to individuals or marketing to businesses. And so you want to think about marketing and social media as being specific to each target segment. So you can obviously use social media to talk to consumers, to talk to individual consumers, and to talk to businesses in addition to government. You're just going to do it a little bit differently because each audience has some different expectations and there are different tools that you're going to use to get to them. So we're going to talk about why you would want to use social media in government contracting, and we're going to focus on storytelling. I have been giving this a variation of this presentation for probably 6 or 7 years now, and I had to completely gut it for this time because there have been so many changes. Between with especially with Twitter becoming X, and it's now an entirely different platform than it used to be. When I first started teaching this presentation, Google Plus was still a thing. So, in my opinion, the social media channels have gotten harder to use. Doesn't mean that you still can't use them effectively. A lot of techniques and strategies that used to work don't work any longer. And if you've been using social media for some time, you may have to adjust some of the things that you've been doing to take advantage of the new environment. That said, it is still very possible to use social media, and we're going to talk about the channels that you can use and why and how to use them. So, why use social media? It's a huge time sink. It's something that you're either going to spend time or you're going to spend money or you're going to spend a combination of both on social media. So why would you want to do that? Because it really does level the playing field between you and the largest companies. Think about it. 20 years ago, before social media came into existence, the only companies that could really afford to broadcast to a national or an international audience were the very large companies, the Coca-Colas, the Booz Allen Hamiltons, the companies that had all of the money and marketing to buy ads on television, buy ads on radio, buy ads in newspaper. If you were a fairly small company, you and one other person, or you and 10 or 12 other people, it was very difficult for you to reach a national audience, certainly almost impossible to reach an international audience, and even difficult to reach a regional audience. Um, Government contracting, a lot of that takes place in the DC area. So if you were in Portland, Oregon, it was difficult to get in touch with people in the Beltway. So social media has really leveled that playing field and allowed smaller companies to reach a larger audience. It allows you to talk to your existing clients, talk to prospects. search for information, broadcast your message to a wide audience, and reach people that you can't reach in other ways. So how do you do this? First, you have to understand who your audience is. In the government space, you want to make sure that you know who your target agencies and who your target primes are. And then you need to figure out, where are they? How can you get to them to talk to them? You can also use social media to keep your existing customers engaged in what it is that you are doing. Searching for information, as far as I'm concerned, that has been the greatest thing about the rise of the internet, social media, and all of the ways that we have to get information. Now, of course, the more information that's out there, the less we can trust it. So obviously, if you're doing searching, you're going to want to vet your sources. But let's say that you have, for example, decided that one of your target agencies is the Department of Agriculture. You can do searches on, what are they doing in the news, what are they, what are they active, what's their mission, has their mission changed. There's a lot of information that you can get about your customer, about your agencies, and that's going to make your responses to proposals far more far more targeted. And instead of using vague language, you'll be able to know, okay, here's what the agency has done in 2023. Here are their challenges for 2024. How do I use that information to to craft my proposal, to sit down and talk to contracting officers? Of course, you can broadcast your message to a wider audience. And there are still people don't tend, we don't tend to answer our emails. We don't tend to answer phone calls. But sometimes the more channels that you use to get to somebody, the more likely you are to be able to talk to the person you want to talk to. So sometimes you can use a social media channel to kind of back channel your way into getting to somebody that you couldn't have gotten to otherwise. The most important thing that you're going to want to do through social media is you're going to want to tell stories. Stories are what make you memorable. Ever since we were little kids, where, we said, Mom, Dad, tell me a story, we've liked stories. They touch our emotions. They allow us to illustrate what it is that we do in a way that's easier than saying, here's my list of product and services. So, let's say you're an IT company working in cybersecurity. You can say that. You can say that, this is my company name. I do cybersecurity. We're better because of X, Y, or Z. And yeah, that's information. But what if you could tell a story? What if, instead of talking about your products and services, you talked about that client who had a ransomware attack? They didn't know how they were going to recover from that. You, as a company, were able to go in, you were able to get their data back, you were able to get them up and running in, say, 24 hours, and then you were able to put things in place to make it less likely that that would happen again. That's a far more compelling message than, I'm a company and I do cybersecurity. It puts a human face on it. It describes what you do in ways that people will understand and respond to. So you can tell stories to your clients. As you probably know, it is easier and less expensive to retain an existing client than to get a new client. So rather than responding to every RFP that crosses your desk, you can hone in on a certain number of agencies. You can use social media. You can use your website to tell stories to them, to keep them engaged in what it is that you're doing, keep them engaged in how you can help them address challenges. Referral sources, strategic partners. These are all people who need to understand what you do so they can help to find new customers for you. The beauty of social media, the beauty of a good marketing plan is it can be referral based. You don't have to go out and spend money to get each client individually. You can get referrals. So if you've done a really good job for a particular agency or a particular prime, they know other people who have similar problems. So if you've left them with a story that they can go tell their contacts, then it's going to make people more likely to reach out to you. You can tell stories to your vendors. You want to keep on good relations with them. And although it's not necessarily business, you can certainly tell stories to your friends because you never know who your friends know. I was in a networking event. We met regularly. We met every week. And somebody walked in and said, hey, I really would like an introduction to, and then named the name of an individual. And somebody in the room raised their hand and said, yeah, I play golf with him every Saturday. So that's a way that you can, tapping into someone's friend network can get you an introduction to the person that you want to meet. And of course, industry leaders. You want to keep them notified with what you're doing, but you want to keep up with what they are doing. So social media allows you access to all of those people and allows you to communicate with and tell stories to all of them. Why stories? Well, I've talked about how stories resonate. You are more memorable if you are appealing to people's head and their heart. And stories are how you get to their heart. It's how you activate their imagination. If you're telling a story and it resonates with somebody and they have a similar problem, they're going to see how that story could relate to them. And the government is facing a lot of challenges. They need to use resources effectively. The government is always being challenged on how they spend money, how they spend resources. Every time there is a shift in which party is in power, then the priorities change and the utilization of resources change, and the government agencies have to keep up with that. AI. I'm sure you've all read about artificial intelligence and how it is changing everything. That's something that the agencies are worried about, individuals are worried about, businesses are worried about. If you've got a story to tell around AI, you want to get that out because those are where people have questions. As I said, political changes. We're about to have another election. So we know that in 2025, something's going to change. We may have a new party in power in the president. We may have a new party in power in Congress. Those are challenges that affect everybody, including at the governmental level. So how do your products or services help the government in dealing with those challenges? Malicious software attacks. We hear about those all the time. And those things aren't just for the IT. You've also got a human element. When somebody walks into work and their computer is shut down because of a ransomware attack, that's not just a software problem. That's not just a hardware problem. It's also a human problem. So look at your businesses. Look at the challenges that are out there. This is one of the reasons that you're going to use social media for gathering information. You need to be informed about the major things that are going on in the world, in your industry, in your neighborhood, because then you can be adept in your business to adapt to those changes and the things that are happening. So you want to tell stories because you have answers. But answers that aren't communicated aren't very useful. You may have the perfect solution to some agency or some prime or some subcontractor's problem. If they don't know you exist, if they don't know that you have that solution, then they're not going to be able to take advantage of what you have to offer, and that's lost revenue to you. So stories are a fantastic vehicle to communicate it because they're more personal than promotional messages. We get ads thrown at us all the time. Every time you go online, you're seeing advertisements. Um, Nobody in the government wants any more advertisements than anybody else, but we will respond to stories. So content marketing is what you're going to use to educate your clients. Blogging is a very good way to talk about the challenges that face your customers and the solutions that you offer. They're also very, very good for search engine optimization. And the rules of search engine optimization have changed in the last 5 to 7 years. They're going to continue to change. But what I don't think is going to change is good content will always be good for search engines. Video content is very, very good. It builds trust. It's one thing to see something written. It's another to see it in video. And I just saw a question go by. What about AI content? Um, I'm going to say that AI needs to be used cautiously right now. You can't always trust what the AI produces. So I did use AI actually to do this presentation. I went into ChatGPT and said, tell me how to use social media for government contractors. And I got back some good answers, and I got back a lot of garbage. A lot of what came back was information for business to business, which is transferable to business to government, but they are two slightly different animals. One of the things I asked for was a case study of a marketing strategy that worked for a government contractor to engage with an agency. And what I got back was a very lovely story about a B2B marketing strategy. So AI content is there. It can be used. It can save you some time. It did help me to organize my thoughts, and it pointed me to some sources that I hadn't been familiar with until I threw the question into ChatGPT. But it has to be used cautiously. It's also very, very obvious when something is AI generated. One of the things I do in my role as a business counselor is I read business plans. And I'm starting to see business plans that are AI generated, and it's painful. So if you do use AI content, make sure that you are vetting it and that you're making sure that it sounds like a human wrote it instead of a computer. I'm not even going to tackle AI art and AI video content at this time because they're kind of beyond the scope of what we do. But there's a lot of controversy in use of AI. So, Curtis, I'm noticing that there are some questions that have gone by. I don't want to wait for everything until the end. So this is not a bad point for me to take a pause and answer some questions.
Absolutely. Can everyone please put their Q&A or their question in the Q&A box? That way, like I said earlier, mentioned earlier, the chat function can be used, for kudos and other networking activities. That way I can keep up with the Q&A. Thank you. But here's a couple of the questions, Jules. Could you please give some examples of promoting products like scientific instruments to people at US EPA and other organizations?
I'm going to cover, I think I will answer that question in one of my next slides. So I'm going to hold off on that one for now, if that's okay.
Thank you. What about if you can't mention government clients on social media? How to tell your story?
Okay, I'm not sure. I did see that question go by, and I'm not sure that I understand it. Can the person who asked it please clarify what you mean by government class?
Well, government clients
Government
on
clients.
social media.
So you don't have to name clients by name. You can use a story that perhaps blends a few clients. One of the things I teach people is how to do an elevator speech, and in an elevator speech, I tell people to tell a short story. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the entirety of the story doesn't have to be one client. So you could take a number of solutions that you've done for clients, combine them together, and then use that story. Maybe one element that you did for one client meshes well with an element that you did for another client, and you use that for the story. Obviously, you'll have to be careful to not use, clear markers that make it obvious that you're talking about company A, B, or C, but usually it's possible to talk about problems in general. A client had this situation. Here is what we did, and here was the result. Generally, you can do that without mentioning the client or making it obvious who the client is.
Thank you, Jules. Is posting reviews from Google a good way to share stories?
Depends on the review. Um, if you got a really fantastic review on Google, then I would go ahead and post that through social media channels. I wouldn't do it all the time, and I would save it for the really good ones. I mean, when someone is very, very sincere in what they said, and perhaps if there is something in that review that tells a story about the experience that they had. So yes, you can use them, save them for the really good ones.
Thank you. And I see another question that popped up. It says, where do you recommend going to get help on creating a strong business plan? What are a couple things you look for in the business plan?
Okay, so if you want to write a strong business plan, I'm going to recommend that you talk to the various SBA resource partners, Women's Business Center, SCORE, or your local SBDC. That's what they are there for. What I'm looking for in a strong business plan is what you're selling, who you're selling it to, how you're marketing that to them, and how you're going to make money. Those are really the important elements to be in a business plan. But I don't want to get too sidetracked on business plans because that's a whole nother topic that I could speak on for another hour, but isn't specific to social media and government contracting.
Thank you, Jules. Two more questions, then I will we can continue. Do you have any tips on marketing to agencies on LinkedIn? And what types of content do you recommend?
Gonna cover that in a couple of slides.
Figured that. Okay. Okay. You're probably going to cover that too. That next question was, which social media channels do you find work best for impacting government agencies?
Yep, gonna get to that in a couple slides too.
What about any advice on how to sell a story on capability statement? On in front on that.
Yes. Use pictures. Use graphs. Yes, a capability statement is a very, very tight document. You don't have a lot of room on there, but if you can find a picture that kind of sums up your differentiator or your client or one of your core competencies, pictures and graphics are a really good way to do that.
Thank you. And the last question. You mentioned that agencies don't want marketing communications, but stories. Where do you find them? Do you search for or follow certain hashtags, or do you expect businesses to tag you?
Maybe I'm being dense, but I'm not sure that I follow that question. Can you repeat it?
Sure. You mentioned that agencies don't want marketing communications, but stories. Where do you find them? Do you search for or follow certain hashtags, or do you expect businesses to tag you?
Okay. Those sound like two different questions to me. So I'm sorry if I'm not understanding. Um, but where to tell the stories. And again, going to get to this in a few slides. But your website is one of the best places to house the story. Then you can broadcast that story through various social media channels. Yes, following hashtags to find to find the communities and the places that you want to participate in is a good idea. As to where you get the stories from your clients, it's good to ask. You can certainly ask them to tag you. That's a very good strategy. But once you've had a successful engagement with a client, part of your sort of post debrief, if you will, is getting them to tell you how it went. And of course, you're going to always want to be keeping track of what is it that clients come to you? What are those challenges that they come to you with? What do you do for them? And then what are the outcomes? And finding out those outcomes, it is a good idea to talk to your clients because what sometimes you'll find is that they had an outcome that you weren't even aware of. We run into this with our clients at the SBTDC. We think we did one thing for them. We think the amazing thing we did was we got them a loan. What it turned out, the amazing thing that we did is the loan allowed them to hire somebody, so they were able to go on vacation for the first time in 3 years. You need to be communicating with your clients and asking them what really was the impact of us working with you. And I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Jules. And you continue if you like.
All right. So, other uses of social media, research information, what's happening in your industry, keeping an eye on various news outlets, and and oftentimes your professional organizations have social media channels. Keep an eye on those and see what's happening in your industry, getting ideas for new business practices. You can ask questions on social media. LinkedIn is a really good place for this. You could do a post where you ask a question. This is a challenge that we're seeing. What kind of solutions would you like to see? Or ask people, what challenges are you facing? So be curious, ask questions, keep an eye on what your competition is doing. Oftentimes, your competition gets blinders on, and they're seeing everything as this particular problem, but they're missing that there's an ancillary problem, and that ancillary problem may be perfect for you to solve. Getting ideas for newsletters, blogs, and other written communications. I can't tell you how many times when I was in business that I would read a blog post, I would agree with it, but want to expand on it, or I would disagree with it and I would want to post some sort of rebuttal to it. So keep an eye on what other people are writing about. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Can you add to the conversation? And you want to promote other people, because the more you promote other people, the more likely they are to promote you. So if you're sharing somebody's post, you're accumulating good karma. You're sending out content. And if someone sees that you're sharing them on a regular basis, they are more likely to also return the favor by sharing your stuff. So, what kind of content balance should you be aiming for? I recommend a third about you, a third promoting other people and other content, and a third conversation. Let me refresh. Okay, there we go. I needed to quickly check because, as I said, I completely redid this presentation. I wanted to make sure what my next couple slides were. So, what is about you? Links to your blog. Uh, Post about people that you're meeting, places you're going. If you found a really good industry event or a really good networking event, post about it. Um, other people in your community, in your industry or in your community, they want information as well. Um, if there's a really good industry event that's coming up in a far-flung area, I mean, let's face it, many of the matchmaking events are in DC. But if you're in Arizona and it just turns out that an agency is coming out to do an event and there's going to be a matchmaking opportunity, let other people in your community know. That's going to get good karma, and it may give you an opportunity to set up a time to meet. It's like, oh, hey, you're going to be at that event too. Let's connect because here's how we could collaborate. Obviously, if you have done something exciting, you want to post about that. If you've hit a business milestone, if you've landed a particularly good client, if you have developed a new product, you want to talk about those. If you have any announcements, right now maybe you're looking to hire and maybe you're having a challenge finding that ideal person, then go ahead and communicate out on, say, LinkedIn, that you're looking for a new employee and these are the characteristics that you're looking for. And, you know, earlier someone said, should you share Google reviews and things like that? Yes, absolutely. You can share testimonials about yourself. Just be careful. Like I say, save it for the really good ones. If it was kind of a vague testimonial, I wouldn't necessarily share it. But if it got very specific, and especially if it had a good story attached to it, definitely share those. Promoting other people. Highlight your clients. Whether they're agency clients, whether they're individuals, whether they're other businesses. If they're doing well, then absolutely post about that. We want to associate with people who are surrounded by success. So if the people around you are successful, go ahead and share that they're successful. That's going to give them more recognition and it's going to elevate your reputation. Links to interesting articles your clients or followers might like to learn from. Again, this is why you should be curious. You should be reading the newspaper. You should be following, certain people on other social media channels. And then when you find something that is interesting or relevant, go ahead and share it. Remember, your clients aren't just interested in what you do. They are interested in other things as well. The more you know about your customers and their interests, the more targeted you can be in what you share with them. And if they kind of get in the habit of coming to you for good information, the more a client comes back to you for information, for ideas, the more likely they are to be long-term customers. Absolutely recognize a vendor who is amazing. You want to, again, you want to surround yourself with successful people. If you've got a vendor who's doing a good job, recognize them. I'm not going to guarantee that they're going to go the extra mile for you, but they might. Again, it's all accumulating good karma. And breaking news. But be careful what's real breaking news versus what various media outlets. I noticed that the breaking news graphic is used for less and less relevant, less and less breaking, less and less interesting news. So save it for the stuff that's really relevant, really interesting, or truly time sensitive. And then conversation, comment on blogs. If you've got a blog and you've got people commenting on your blog, go back and comment on their comments, or wherever it is. LinkedIn, you may be sharing content on LinkedIn, and people are having a conversation around that post. Participate in that. I guarantee that people are talking about you. You can join in the conversation or you can ignore it. Answering questions in online forums or groups. That's how you establish yourself as a thought leader. It's how you establish yourself as a subject matter expert. Everyone wants to be a thought leader. It's a term that I hear a lot, and it's a challenge. How do you become a thought leader? Well, in my opinion, you don't become a thought leader. Someone proclaims you a thought leader. The way you are proclaimed as a thought leader is if you are out there providing good information, answering questions, and generally being a good corporate citizen. Don't forget to ask questions. You'll get good ideas if you're thinking about a new product, a new service, a new marketing channel, going after a new customer. Go ahead and ask those questions and get more information. It also lets people know what you're doing and what you're thinking. Obviously, if these are trade secrets, you don't want to do this. If you are patenting something and intellectual property is involved, please talk to your intellectual property attorney before you share anything publicly, because that can come back and hurt you. So, as you're asking questions and sharing information, do keep in mind your intellectual property, and the fact that that has value for you, and you don't want to just expose it unnecessarily. So, see how it works? If you're doing a third, a third, a third, you're having a very wide balance of content. You're promoting other people. You're talking about yourself. You're sharing information. You're going to be interesting. You're going to be worthy of following, and nobody's going to think you're a spammer. All right. So there was a question earlier about what channels to use. This is completely different from what I used to say. I used to promote Twitter highly for government contracting because all of the agencies had Twitter accounts. They followed them. There were some very, very good hashtags for government contracting. Then Twitter became X, and everything changed. So I don't really recommend X at the moment because it's kind of become a hot mess. LinkedIn has always been good. LinkedIn continues to be good. LinkedIn keeps adding new features. There's more ways that you can share content. There's more ways that you can share what your company's doing. Just be careful about where your content is housed. If you do not want to house your content on LinkedIn, you want to house it on something that you own, like your website, because you never know when a source that's owned by somebody else might decide to change their policies. LinkedIn, it's unlikely they're going to decide tomorrow that they're not going to be a place where you can house content, but they could decide that, and you wouldn't want to have all of your content vanish. In the early days of Facebook, many people used Facebook as their website. Then Facebook started changing their policies, and all of a sudden, people lost access to their customers. They lost access to some of their content. So, house your content on something you own, like your website, and share it to other channels. I saw flashing by that Reddit is a good source. It can be. Be careful with Reddit. I use Reddit for personal, so I'm on there fairly regularly, following the things that I'm a fan of. There's a there's ways that you can use Reddit. There's ways to be a good Redditor, and there's ways that they would rather you not share. So before you decide to use Reddit as a social media channel, one, make sure that your customers are there. I have actually not not thought about using Reddit for GovCon until this person just mentioned that. But go check it out, but be on it for a while so you understand how Reddit works. And someone said, should you post things on your website and link? Yes. So post content on your website and then link to the various channels. So put a link on LinkedIn if you're sharing a blog post or an article that you've written. YouTube continues to be useful. I think will continue to be useful for quite some time. It is the place to share video content. It is still a search engine in and of itself. So you use that as your place to host video content. Now, do you post directly to YouTube or do you post to your website? I'm going to say post to both. You want to keep things on your website. Again, you want to keep it so you own it. But you really want to have people coming to your channel and learning about your channel and learning to know and like and trust you there. Instagram isn't necessarily a place to post about your business and your products and your services, but it's not a bad place to showcase your culture. What is it like to work at your company? That's a pretty good way to use Instagram. New social media channels pop up all the time. I don't recommend that you start using a new social media channel until it's had a chance to prove itself. So I know for a while everybody was talking about Threads and everybody was signing up for Threads, and after a couple of months, nobody was on Threads. So yes, there's always going to be the new, exciting, shiny new social media channel. Give it some time, see what it turns into, see if it survives before you spend too much time and money there. Whoa, my last slide went away. No. Sorry. There we go. Everybody needs a cute puppy today. So fire away. Give me the questions. Go for it, Curtis.
I agree. Nice puppy. Um, can you speak to LinkedIn as a B2G platform?
Yes. It's what you'll want to do with LinkedIn is you'll want to identify the people that you want to meet in the government, and then you can use LinkedIn as a way to step your way to an introduction. If you may remember 6 Degrees of Separation, or 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon, or whatever that was. What I found is it never took 6 degrees to get to somebody. LinkedIn was designed around that philosophy. So you use your connections to reach out to a next level of connection to hopefully reach out to the person that you want to meet. I sort of think about it as 3 concentric circles, a big concentric circle and then 2 more on the inside. The big circle is C. Those are the people that you know. You use your C contacts to get to the B, which is the smaller circle inside the C, which will hopefully get you to the A contacts, which is the smallest circle. Those are the people you want to meet. So use your existing contacts and step your way through to get to the person that you want to meet. LinkedIn is good for that because you can see who stands between you and the people that you want to meet. Also, if the people at the agencies are active on LinkedIn, you'll get information about them. You'll find out what they're interested in. You may find out more about their challenges. So when you do finally get a conversation with them, you've got more information and you sound like you've done your homework.
Thank you. When using video, what is the ideal length? And we aren't sure if we should post a full demo or just a quick video.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
When using video, what is the ideal length?
Oh, okay. Um, if you've got a really good, couple of seconds that you can use as a video thumbnail, that's good. If you don't have that, make sure that the picture that you're using that pops up in the link is relevant. Um, when you create a link with a video, you're kind of at the mercy of what your software produces as the linked image. So you need to understand to how to take that default image that it comes up with and put in something that's going to be relevant. A title page is good, or a representative image from your video, something that people are going to find engaging.
Thank you. So how frequently should we post new content?
A lot depends on your audience, and a lot depends on your channel. Um, LinkedIn, it used to be infrequently. People now post on LinkedIn a lot more frequently than they used to. What I would do is I would kind of go look at your customers, look at at the people in your circle, in your industry, see how often they post, and use that as a measure, provided that your industry isn't into overposting. Authors used to be terrible on Twitter. They would post their new book 100 times a day. So you want to find a balance between too often and not often enough. Uh, Whatever you're doing on your various channels, I wouldn't have anything like on a LinkedIn page. I wouldn't have anything that's more than about 2 weeks old. More frequent is better. If you're going to blog, come up with a schedule and stick to it. Um, Nothing says unprofessional more than going to someone's blog and seeing that the last post was from 2021 or older. Same thing. If you're having a LinkedIn presence, you don't want to have your last post be from 2018. So once a month, once every other week, not bad. Um, but again, a lot of it depends on the channel. Every channel has their own kind of rhythm. If you only post once a month on Instagram, you'll get completely, you'll be lost in the flood. So look at the conventions of the channel. Look at what your customers do. Look at what your client. Look at what the other people in your industry do, and adapt to that.
Thank you. Is it okay to directly reach out to government agency contacts to ask them to either follow you, read a post, join a webinar, or to simply ask them to accept a connection request?
I wouldn't do that until you've had some contact with them. I would not send an agency contact a link to an article if you've never had a conversation with them. Um, a connection request on LinkedIn is a bit more of a gray area. If you can get somebody to forward a connection request, that is better. In general, though, I wouldn't beyond a simple LinkedIn connection request. I wouldn't start sending things to people until you've had some sort of contact with them. Now, if commenting on an agency YouTube video, things like that, perfectly fine. If your agency uses X or another channel, tagging them would be perfectly fine. But I wouldn't blindly send an email to somebody that you haven't met in person or been introduced to in some way.
Thank you. Does government agencies consider social media content for awarding government contracts?
It depends. Um, we do business that we do business with people we know, like, and trust. So if you've got social media content that puts you in a bad light, that's certainly going to affect whether you get a contract because it's going to reduce the trust factor. We also work with people that, we work with people who are top of mind. So social media content can keep you top of mind. It if it can enhance your reputation or it can detract from your reputation. So no, you're not going to directly get a contract based on something that you posted on social media. But if you are consistent in posting relevant, good content that will enhance trust and make it more likely that you might be considered. Also, when you're reaching out to a new contact in an agency, they're probably going to look at your capability statement. If your social media channels are listed on your capability statement, they might go look at that, and they may use that to evaluate in their mind, do you look contract ready? Remember that for small businesses especially, that's what they're looking at. They're looking at, is someone contract ready? Your social media presence can make you look more or less contract ready. And so it's an indirect effect, not a direct, unless you do something really, really stupid and look like an idiot. Then it'll probably mean you won't get that contract.
Thank you, Jules. How do we grow our following? Should we post content under our personal accounts or strictly through our business accounts?
Business. Um, Use your personal for keeping track of people that you know, but don't you don't want to cross your business and your personal, um, because we tend to be a little less careful about what we put on our personal profiles. So you want to interact with your customers on a business page, and then you want to be careful how what you post represents your business. I If you get to know somebody really, really well, then maybe you could friend them on Facebook. But I wouldn't do that for someone unless you and that person have agreed that you have a friend relationship where that would be appropriate. So keep the bulk of your interactions on a business profile or a business page.
Thank you. Do you think LinkedIn is turning more into a social site like Facebook?
It seems to be trying to, or people are trying to turn it into that. Um, Again, the uh, a social media platform is going to take on the personality of the people who are using it. If the people who are using it are primarily using it as a social venue, then it's going to turn into a social venue. If the people who are using it are primarily business, then it's going to stay business. Um, so you don't really have a lot of control over what other people post. You can only control what it is that you post and how you want to present yourself on a particular channel.
Thank you. I do not see Facebook as a channel. Is there a reason this platform is missing?
Yes, because it is, from a business perspective, you really need to pay to play. You need to pay for advertising. That's not where the government agencies are. It can be a very good channel for business to consumer marketing. It's not a great channel for business to government because that's people aren't really on Facebook to do contract talks and things like that. But if you have a consumer element to your marketing strategy, then Facebook can still be a good channel for that. But I don't recommend it for government. And I sort of edged into Instagram um, because of the way you could use that, like I say, as a strategy to sort of market your culture. And I still wouldn't necessarily use that as a direct channel to get to government.
Thank you. Are there any tools that can give us analytics on B2G social media activities so we can see how our customers are consuming content?
Yes, they change constantly. I hesitate to recommend any particular dashboards, but a Google search on social media content dashboard will get you something that will get you things at many price points and with many features. And then that's a case of what meets your needs and your budget.
Thank you, Jules. What if we are just starting out on social media? No followers yet, no content. Should we build up content posts before reaching out and making connections?
You wanna have something there so that you have a presence. So when someone stops by and looks at your profile, that there's something there. I would as you're building, do a good balance of your content and sharing other people's content. And be strategic in who you follow. Start conversations with them. That's a way to entice them to start engaging with and following you back.
Thank you. Can you recommend any writing resources for using LinkedIn for B2G?
There are a number of very good books. Um, yeah, there is an author who has done a lot of books on using LinkedIn for B2G, and wouldn't you know that I cannot remember his name. Go to Amazon and do a look on LinkedIn for B2G, and then read reviews and be careful if anyone purports to have the secret to being a successful government contractor. I tend to avoid books that have secret in their names. But if you read reviews and look at the samples, you can usually get a pretty good idea of what's out there. But yes, an Amazon search on using LinkedIn for government should get you some good results.
Thank you. I have two more questions. When it comes to linking articles, is there any danger in linking to articles on subscription websites that may not allow full access?
Yes. Um, if if the site allows you to gift a certain number of articles, then do the gift link. If you're pretty sure that your followers are going to have a subscription to that site, then it's fairly safe. If you're linking to it, do put somewhere in your link that it's a link to a subscription site. Don't get me on my soapbox about subscriptions and all of that. That's another hour that I could talk about. And that's probably not going to be the best use of our time. So gift links if you can, but and let people know that it is a link to a site that requires a subscription, so they know what they're getting into when they click the link.
Thank you. And the last question. How does the government respond to social media ads from businesses? Are ads worth the cost?
I don't think they are. Ads are really for B2B and B2C. I'm not persuaded that there are people monitoring government social media channels who are going to respond to ads.
Thank you. Well, that's all the questions we have for now. I would like to thank everybody for participating and thank you for attending. Thank you, Jules. I appreciate your time, and this has been great and wonderful information. I would like everybody to have a wonderful day. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me. And I thank you, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Wendy.
Welcome. Hope everybody have a wonderful day.